Welcome to Veteach. In today's video, we are going to deal with reading comprehension exercise. You have to know that reading comprehension is an integral part of any English competitive exam that you might take. There is absolutely no campus recruitment exam without reading comprehension. In this particular section, they are going to assess your language skills, your grammar, vocabulary, your knowledge on the language, etc. So it is very important for you to read the passage carefully and choose the right answer from the alternatives given under the questions. Now let's dive right into the exercise. Like you can see here, this passage has been given in section officers exam in 1993. You can expect such kind of passages in your campus recruitment exams of Infosys, TCS and Wipro. So you might want to give close attention to this passage. Now let's read the passage. Democratic societies from the earliest times have expected their governments to protect the weak against the strong. No era of good feeling can justify discharging the police force or giving up the idea of public control over concentrated private health. Here it is being said that the democratic societies from earliest times have expected their governments to protect the weak against the strong. So what do we expect from a democratic government? We expect it to protect the weak against the strong. Weak as in less privileged people. So we expect the governments to protect the less privileged people from the strong. No era of good feeling can justify discharging the police force or giving up the idea of public control over concentrated private wealth. There is absolutely nothing that can justify not having public control over concentrated private wealth. Now here, what is public control here? Public control here is government control. Alright, public here is government. So the author is saying that there is absolutely nothing that can justify not having government control over concentrated private wealth. On the other hand, it is obvious that a spirit of self-denial and moderation on the part of those who hold economic power will greatly soften the demand for absolute equality. Now the author is saying that the spirit of self-denial, what is self-denial here? Self-denial is self-sacrifice, okay? Self-denial is self-sacrifice. And what is moderation here? Moderation means self-control. Self-control. So the author is of an opinion that the spirit of self-denial and moderation, the spirit of self-sacrifice and self-control in the minds of people who hold this economic power will greatly soften the demand for absolute equality from the people of less privileged. Now, men are more interested in freedom and security than in an equal distribution of wealth. Now, the author is saying that people are more interested in freedom and security than in an equal distribution of wealth. They do not care about equal distribution of wealth. They do not want equal distribution of wealth. Rather, what they're craving is the sense of freedom and sense of security from the government. The extent to which government must interfere with business, therefore, is not exactly measured by the extent to which economic power is concentrated into a few hands. Now, the author is saying that the extent to which government must interfere with business, therefore, is not exactly measured by the extent to which economic power is concentrated into a few hands. How much government should interfere is not measured by how much of this economic power is concentrated in a few hands. Then what is it dependent on, right? The author says that the required degree of government interference depends mainly on whether economic powers are oppressively used and on the necessity of keeping economic factors in a tolerable state of balance. The author is saying that the required degree of government interference depends mainly on whether these economic powers that are being held, that are concentrated just in a few hands, are oppressively used and on the necessity of keeping these economic factors in a tolerable state of balance. All right, moving on. But with the necessity of meeting all these dangers and threats to liberty, the powers of government are unavoidably increased, whichever political party may be in office. Now the author is saying that to maintain all of this, to meet all these dangers and threats to liberty, the powers of government are inevitably increased, whichever political party that may be in office. The growth of government is a necessary result of the growth of technology and of the problems that go with the use of machines and science. Now the author is saying that the growth of government is a necessary result of the growth of technology, which means growth of government is directly proportional to the growth of technology. Now, if there is a growth in technology, then the growth of government is necessary and inevitable. So, since the government in our nation must take on more powers to meet its problems, there is no way to preserve freedom except by making democracy more powerful. At the end, the author is saying that our government and our nation must take on more powers to meet its problem, that it has to take on more powers. But in this case, our freedom is at stake. So what is the way to keep the democracy? How do we preserve our freedom? Now, the author is saying that to preserve our freedom, there is only one way, and that way is to make democracy more powerful. All right. Let's try and solve the questions. Question number 1. The advent of science and technology has increased the option A, freedom of people, B, tyranny of the political parties, option C, powers of the government, option D, chances of economic inequality. The advent of science and technology has increased, like it has already been mentioned in the passage, that the growth of government is a necessary result of the growth of technology. So the advent of science and technology has increased the powers of the government. All right. So for question number 1, the answer is option C, powers of government. Moving on to question number 2. A spirit of moderation on the economically sound people would make the less privileged, option A, unhappy with the rich people, B, more interested in freedom and security, C, unhappy with their lot, and D, clamor less for absolute equality. Like it has been mentioned in the beginning few lines of the passage, that self-denial and moderation on the part of those who hold economic power will greatly soften from here. Self-denial will greatly soften the demand for absolute equality in the minds of the poor or the less privileged. So the answer to this question is D. Option D, clamor less for absolute equality. Question number 3. The growth of government is necessitated to, option A, make the rich and the poor happy, option B, curb the accumulation of wealth in few hands, C, monitor science and technology, D, deploy the police force wisely. So when you look at the options B, C, and D, that is exactly what the author has been against, right? Curb the accumulation of wealth in a few hands? No. The growth of government does not curb the accumulation of wealth in a few hands. The growth of government does not monitor science and technology. Now, the growth of government is necessitated to, option A, make the rich and the poor happy. It's not just to make the rich happy, but also the poor happy. Answer for question number 3 is option A. Question number 4, era of good feeling in sentence 2 refers to, option A, time of prosperity, option B, time of adversity, option C, time without government, and option D, time of police atrocities. Era of good feeling. It's right here in the beginning few lines of the passage, and the answer to this question is time of prosperity. All right, so to question number 4, the answer is option A, time of prosperity. Question number 5, tolerable state of balance in the last sentence may mean, option A, an adequate level of police force, option B, a reasonable level of economic equality, option C, a reasonable amount of government interference, option D, a reasonable check on economic power. So when you look at it, this entire passage has been about a reasonable amount of government interference. So the answer to question number 5 is option C, a reasonable amount of government interference. All right, we are going to solve yet another reading comprehension exercise. In this particular section, they are going to assess your verbal ability, your language skills, your grammar, your vocabulary, and your knowledge on the language. So it is very important for you to read the passage carefully and choose the right answer from the alternatives given under the question. Now let's dive right into the exercise. Let's read the passage. Economists, ethicists, and business sages persuade us that honesty is the best policy, but their evidence is weak. We hope to find data that would support their theories and thus perhaps encourage higher standards of business behavior. To our surprise, our pet theories failed to stand up. So what do we understand from the passage up until here? So there are a set of people who are trying to find data that would support the statement that honesty is the best policy. Now, economists, ethicists, and business sages persuade us. What is the meaning of persuade here? Persuade is convince. Now, these people convince us that honesty is the best policy, but their evidence is apparently weak. Now, these set of people are trying to find data that would support their theories and thus encourage higher standards of business behavior. To their surprise, their pet theories failed to stand up. Okay, now what is pet theories here? Pet theories and stand up. Pet theories means a subject or a topic that you are interested in or your interests lie in. So these people were trying to find evidence to support that honesty is the best policy, and this becomes their pet theory because they are interested in this particular topic. So that becomes their pet theory. Now, what is stand up? Stand up is remain valid. Remain valid. Now, what does this mean? To our surprise, our pet theories failed to stand up, which means this theory that honesty is the best policy does not remain to be valid. Treachery, we found, can pay. There is no compelling economic reason to tell the truth or keep one's word. Punishment for the treacherous in the real world is neither swift nor sure. Now, treachery. What is treachery? Treachery is a quality of being deceptive, right? Treachery is deceptiveness. Treachery, we found, can pay. There is no compelling economic reason. Compelling is convincing, right? There is no convincing economic reason to tell the truth or keep one's word. Punishment for the treacherous in the real world is neither swift nor sure. What is swift? Fast. What are they telling here? They're telling that the punishment for being treacherous in the real world, even if it is sure, even if it is there, it is not even fast. Moving on. Honesty is in fact primarily a moral choice. Business people do tell themselves that in the long run, they will do well by doing good. But there is a little factual or logical basis for this conviction. What is the meaning of conviction? Conviction is belief. This particular paragraph says that honesty is in fact primarily a moral choice. Now, honesty is a choice that we make, right? It is a choice that we make. It is a moral choice. Business people do tell themselves that in the long run, they will do well by doing good. That is what they tell themselves, these business people, that they will do well by doing good. There is little factual or logical basis for this belief, right? Without values, without a basic preference for right over wrong, trust based on such self-delusion would crumble in the face of temptation. Most of us choose virtue because we want to believe in ourselves and have others respect and believe in us. Now, without a certain set of values, without having a conscience of what is right and what is wrong, trust based on such self-delusion would crumble in the face of temptation. Such kind of trust would crumble. Most of us choose righteousness. Most of us choose honesty because we want to believe in ourselves and have others respect us and believe in us, right? And for this, we should be happy. We can be proud of a system in which people are honest because they want to be, not because they have to be. Materially too, trust based on morality provides great advantages. It allows us to join in great and exciting enterprises that we could never undertake if we relied on economic incentives alone. This particular paragraph says that we should be happy because we choose to be honest, not because we have to be. We are choosing to be honest, not because somebody's compelling us, somebody's persuading us. So for that fact, we should be happy and proud. Materially too, trust based on morality provides great advantages. Now, this paragraph says that materially too, even from the perspective of material, trust based on morality provides great advantages. It allows us to join in great and exciting enterprises that we could never undertake if we relied on economic incentives alone. Now, this is saying that if we had relied only on economic incentives, we wouldn't have joined in great and exciting enterprises, right? That would help us grow more as a person. So it allows us to join in great and exciting enterprises that we could never undertake if we relied only on economic incentives alone. Moving on, economists tell us that trust is enforced in the marketplace through retaliation of reputation. If you violate a trust, your victim is apt to seek revenge and others are likely to stop doing business with you, at least under favorable terms. In this particular paragraph, it is being said that economists tell us that trust is enforced in the marketplace through retaliation of reputation. Now, what is the meaning of retaliation first? Retaliation is revenge. Let's say you did not know the meaning of retaliation. When you read the rest of the paragraph, in the coming line, there is the meaning of the word retaliation right there, which is revenge. So what does that tell you? when you do not know the meaning of a certain word, please keep reading, right? Please keep reading and consider the context of the paragraph. Let's say you are an owner of a business, and let's say you betrayed the trust of one of your customers. Now, do you expect him to come back to you and engage with you in your business endeavors? No, he's never going to come back to you, right? So that is what these economists are saying, that trust is enforced in the marketplace through retaliation of reputation. If you violate the trust of your customers, it is apt to seek revenge, and others are likely to stop doing business with you, at least under favorable terms. A man or woman with a reputation for fair dealing will prosper. Therefore, profit maximizers are honest. But this sounds plausible enough until you look for concrete examples. These set of people are saying that all of this sounds plausible enough until you look for concrete example. What is plausible? Plausible means possible, and concrete means solid. Now, all of this theory sounds possible enough until you look for solid examples. Cases that apparently demonstrate the awful consequences of trust turns out to be few and weak, while evidence that treachery can pay seems compelling. Now, cases that apparently demonstrate the awful consequence of trust turns out to be few and weak. The cases that explain how awful the consequences would be if the trust is being betrayed are only a few and also weak, while evidence that treachery can pay seems compelling. Compelling is convincing. Now let's solve the questions. Question number 1. What did the author find out about the theory that honesty is the best policy? Option A, it is useless theory. B, it is correct on many occasions. C, it is correct for all businessmen. D, it is correct only occasionally. Now, what did the author find out about the theory that honesty is the best policy? That it is correct only occasionally. It does not have to be true with all the businessmen at all occasions, right? So for question number 1, correct answer is option D. Question number 2. Why does the author say that one can be proud of the present situation because people are, option A, respect seekers, B, honest without compulsion, C, unselfish, D, self-respecting? Yeah, so in paragraph 3, the author says that we should be proud of a system in which people are honest because they want to be, not because they have to be, which means being honest without compulsion. So to question number 2, correct answer is B, honest without compulsion. Question number 3, what do economists and ethicists want us to believe? Option A, businessmen are honest only at times. B, businessmen should be honest at all times. C, businessmen cannot be honest at all times. D, businessmen can turn dishonest at times. Now, at the beginning only, it has been said that economists, ethicists, and business sages persuade us that honesty is the best policy, but their evidence is weak. Persuade us, try to convince us. They want us to believe that honesty is the best policy and all businessmen are honest, right? Now, so the answer to question number 3 is B. Businessmen should be honest at all times. Question number 4, which is the material advantage which the author sees in being honest? It permits one to, option A, undertake activities which may not be economically attractive. Option B, be honest for the sake of honesty alone. Option C, make a lot of profit in various areas. Option C, none of these. So in paragraph number 3, it is given that it allows us to join in great and exciting enterprises that we could never undertake if we relied on economic incentives alone. So the answer to question number 4 is option A, undertake activities which may not be economically attractive. Question number 5, which of the following is the same in meaning as persuade as used in the passage? For this, I've already written that it is the meaning of persuade is to convince. When you're answering such kind of questions, you have to always consider the context in which that particular word is being used, right? You just cannot take the literal meaning of it. You have to always consider the context in which that word is being used. And the answer to question number 5 is try to convince, option A. Question number 6, which of the following is false according to the passage? They're asking what is false according to the passage. Option A, people are generally honest because it pays in the long run. People are generally honest because it pays in the long run. Yes, that has been mentioned in the passage. B, virtuous behavior earns the self-respect of others. Yes. C, economists believe that all businessmen are dishonest. No, not all businessmen. Now, all here is a keyword and it is an extreme word. And nowhere has it mentioned that economists believe that all businessmen are dishonest. So option C is false. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you find this video helpful. Please come back for more videos like this.